So let's be honest, a lot of plant-based enchiladas fall apart and it takes time to roll all those individual enchiladas. Today, we're making a roasted poblano enchilada stack. So let's dive in. The first thing we want to do is roast our poblano peppers. If you have a gas stove, just turn the flame on high and set those peppers right over that flame. If you don't have a gas stove, you can roast these in the oven. So I'm just going to pop these up here, and we want to give these a really nice char. You will start to catch the aroma of these peppers as they start to roast. So just turn them occasionally until they are nice and dark. I stick with these poblano peppers the entire time I'm roasting them. And if you're someone that's apprehensive to eat something that is charred for whatever reason, there's no worry because 99% of this char is going to be scraped off, but you'll still get that deep smoky flavor. And like I mentioned, if you don't have access to a gas stove, I'll put directions below on how you can roast these in your oven. So I'm just transferring them to a glass dish. And remember, we don't ever want to transfer something hot into something plastic. If you don't have a glass dish, then just use a bowl and you can cover it. And we're just going to let these steam while we move on to the next step. The next thing we're going to do is throw together our golden sauce that will go on the top. It has a few basic ingredients. The first step is we're going to boil some potatoes and carrots. And if you're not a fan of chopping, by all means buy pre-chopped. You can get frozen chopped potatoes in the grocery store in the freezer section. They're right next to the hash browns, but be sure you get a potato that is only potato, no added salt or oil. So we're going to toss these in the pot, bring them to a boil, let them cook till they're soft, and then everything will just go in the blender. So just bring your water to a boil and we'll slide in the potatoes and our carrots. I'll put the lid on this and let it come back to a boil, and tip your lid a little bit so it doesn't boil over. And while these potatoes and carrots cook, we'll measure out our spices and seasonings. Another thing about this recipe I like is while one step is happening, you can move on to the second step, and I've measured out our spices and seasonings, and we'll just toss them all in the blender. So I have my cashew powder, and if you want to use cashews, I'll put instructions below. Our jalapenos with the jalapeno vinegar, lemon juice, apple cider vinegar, garlic powder, onion powder, miso, and our nutritional yeast. My potatoes and carrots are tender, so I just use a slotted spoon and I scoop them into the blender, and then I'll measure out 1.5 cups of the broth. Now you don't need a high-speed blender to make this sauce. So we'll just pop the lid on and blend it till it's nice and smooth. Let's check the consistency of this sauce here. These high-speed blenders, they really heat the contents. Okay, that's really good. I'm going to set this aside and let's work on those poblano peppers. After we roasted these poblano peppers and put them in this container and covered them, the steam makes it really easy to scrape the char off. And I usually don't work on my cutting board because the char will stain my cutting board. So I'll either work directly on my countertop or on a plate or a sheet of parchment paper. And we're just going to scrape the excess char off of these. And then I just cut off the end, and we'll split this open, and we'll scrape out the membrane and the seeds. And we have a nice roasted poblano pepper. And if you're a big fan of batch prep like I am, just buy a big bag of these peppers and prep them in advance. They freeze beautifully. Now we'll just toss together the insides of our enchilada stack. A little diced onion, and diced sweet pepper. Use whatever you have, red, orange, yellow. It just adds a nice bright color to it and a little extra flavor. And you know I'm a fan of the water saute, so I never saute in a big puddle of oil. So I just drop a little water in, and when the water dances, I know everything's ready to go in. And this color in the bottom of the pan is what we want to see. So once that begins to show a little bit of golden color, we're going to splash a little bit of water in. And we'll saute these till they're tender, and when your pan cooks dry, just toss a little more water in. Our peppers and onions are soft, so I'm going to toss in this garlic. And I always put the garlic in at the end so it doesn't become bitter, and we'll give it a quick stir. I'll let it cook about a minute, and we'll just toss the other ingredients in here, and we'll work straight from this pan to make our enchilada stack. So I turn the fire off, and I'm tossing in our black beans, which have been drained and rinsed, and our roasted corn. And you can buy roasted corn in the can. You can buy it in the freezer section of a lot of stores. And if you can't find it, you can just use a regular corn. And our brown rice, and use whatever rice you have or whatever rice you like. You can even buy frozen rice in the store that doesn't have anything added if you need to put a meal together quickly. And then we'll add our seasoning, and I have smoked paprika and taco seasoning. And I have a really great, very budget-friendly taco seasoning recipe. If you want to check that out, I'll put it in the link below. I'm not cooking this, I'm just combining it in this pan to save from dirtying one more dish. Let's put this together. I take my corn tortilla and I dip it in some enchilada sauce, and this helps keep it from sticking to the bottom of the pan. And this little trick also makes it easier when you go to serve the enchilada stack. So this is a 9x9 baking pan, and it takes about 4 tortillas to fill it, but I just don't like that little bare spot in the middle, so I'll take a final tortilla and use it just to fill the gap. And remember, this doesn't have to be perfect because it's on the bottom and no one will ever see it. Next, we'll just spoon this on top of our tortillas and add a little bit of our nutritional yeast, some enchilada sauce, and a little bit of our golden sauce that we made. I'm going to sprinkle this with a little bit of nutritional yeast for extra flavor. And then we'll add our roasted poblano peppers. And we'll just repeat these layers one more time. I'm just putting a little bit of this golden creamy sauce on top. There's a lot of recipes out there that are very similar to this that are called cheese sauce, but if I'm giving this to someone that isn't plant-based and I call it a cheese sauce, they have certain expectations. And so I just call it a golden creamy sauce. I'm just topping this with some green onions for a little bit of color. Sometimes I like to bake this in the oven where I can set it and forget it. So I'll cover it with foil and bake it. But today I'm going to bake it in the microwave. And because it's in the microwave, and the microwave is a more moist environment, for the first part of it while it's cooking, I will cook it uncovered. And then when I amp the temperature up to 100%, I'll cover it with a piece of parchment paper to keep it from splattering, and this will be ready to serve. This just came out of the microwave and it is piping hot. We'll wait just a few minutes and we'll dish this up. Like most dishes that are cooked in layers, it's best if you let it set for just a few minutes so it's easier to serve. Oh wow, that looks really good. Another thing I like about this recipe is you can make it a day ahead and bake it when you're ready. The roasted poblano peppers and the corn tortilla gives it a really authentic Mexican taste. That is bold, smoky, and spicy. We love this. I hope you give this recipe a try. If you do, let me know how it goes in the comments, and thanks for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed our time together, please click the like and subscribe so you don't miss the recipe next week, and I'll see you then.